YouTube, today we're gonna go over the Series 11 Necrozma team that I used for back-to-back battles. Let's get started and roll the episode. So why Necrozma-Dusk-Mane? This team was actually inspired by a Battle Stadium online tournament that I ended up participating in, and this was before the Crown Tundra Pokemon were released. It ended up being a rule set of one restricted or one mythical Pokemon. And I remember getting destroyed. I was using a Sun team, and then I got absolutely destroyed by this Rain Dance tech on the Necrozma-Dusk-Mane player, who ended up finishing off really well. I think they ended up placing top 30 in the tournament overall. And I just remember that this team was really cool. It had double Rain Dance with Choice Scarf for Urshifu and Rain Dance on the Pincurchin. The idea was against Charizard teams, you'd be able to Rain Dance and then get a surprise knockout with the Necrozma-Dusk-Mane, and it was just absolutely insane to me. I always want to reincorporate it, but I never ended up getting the chance in Series 8, so I knew that I really wanted to try it out for Series 11 with my own edit. So how did I recreate the team? Well, first I ended up starting with Necrozma with Urshifu and Pincurchin, which were on the original team. I really do like having the Necrozma. It is really strong, especially with a Rain Dance option to help protect it against those powerful Charizard attacks or just any fire moves in general, just eliminating one of its big weaknesses. And yeah, having the Pincurchin to help out against Trick Room Torkoal potential matchups, while Urshifu is usually able to help out against the Groudon matchups in general. Next Pokemon I felt like I needed on the team was something to help out against Kyogre, especially it is a pretty big threat. So added to the team, I actually decided to add Cradily. Now I felt like Cradily was really nice to have because it helped out against a bit of Kyogre matchups. I felt like I wasn't too weak to Zacian, so I felt like just adding Cradily made a lot of sense to me. And, you know, being able to handle a bit of Groudon, a bit of Regieleki, which was also a big threat to the team, I felt like was just really nice to have. So ended up having Cradily. It was a electric resist that was good to switch in to water type attacks. The only problem is with Urshifu that I can't Surging Strikes next to Cradily. That is something that I did a few times and wasn't pretty. So just as a reminder, Storm Drain will do that. So yeah, I ended up adding Cradily. I think it's a fantastic mon. I think it's good in this format, and I felt like on this team where it wasn't Necrozma week, I felt like it could shine on this team. Next Pokemon I added was Thundurus because I still wanted a ground immunity, and I felt like, you know, the Groudon matchup was still a little bit iffy because Cradily doesn't resist Precipice Blades because it's part rock type, and I felt like if Urshifu's clicking Rain Dance for Necrozma still might not be the most solid option. So having a switch into the ground type attacks and, you know, maybe another Rain Dance user for Urshifu to actually direct him with the Surging Strikes KO is actually pretty solid. So ended up going with the Safety Goggles Thundurus. Again, this is a Pokemon I think is fantastic in this format. It's been on my mind since the early stages when Series 11 basically got announced. I really think this Pokemon has a lot to shine this format. Maybe with Thunder Wave, but since again I'm using Harsh Trick Room on this team, I don't need Thunder Wave. But overall, I think having the Eerie Impulse helps out with my little bit of a weakness to special attackers like Calyrex Shadow Rider, Kyogre. I felt like that was really nice. Having that Rain Dance for the Urshifu help, and having that ground immunity I felt like was pretty important. While I was a little bit sketch on the fact that I have two electric types on the team, they don't share common weaknesses, and they're usually not really brought to the same game unless it's like really good against my opponent offensively. So yeah, I do like having Thundurus on the team, and I think it's a great Pokemon. And then last Pokemon I felt like I needed Incineroar, as I think having a way to just have Intimidate is really nice. I think the dark coverage for Calyrex Shadow Rider is really nice. Having a answer to Venusaur is always really solid. And yeah, Incineroar just fulfilled those roles. Having a fire type is always just really good on the team in general. Helps out especially against Ferrothorn, which this team can't really damage as well. So yeah, just Incineroar was pretty good to cover the general weaknesses that I felt like were remaining on the team. All right, let's go over the items, the movesets, and the EV spreads of the team. We got Life Orb Pincurchin up first with the Electric Surge ability with Rising Voltage, Sucker Punch, Rain Dance, and Protect. Pincurchin's a really nice mon to have on this team if it fills a few roles, like the Electric Surge ability to help out against Amoonguss, some Sleep Powders, and some Yawns that really are thrown out there. So I really do like having Pincurchin for that. I also really like having the Pincurchin that is slower than Torkoal naturally. So under Trick Room, it does outspeed Torkoal, can threaten a big powerful Rising Voltage to even pick up the knockout depending on the Torkoal set, or I can Rain Dance in front of the Torkoal to make the fire type moves just do no damage at all to my Necrozma, especially if I'm Dynamax. And then what I'll be able to do is activate the weakness policy and revenge KO, which is really nice to have. So Pincurchin's really nice for that, as well as Sucker Punch for the activation on Necrozma's weakness policy that I can self proc, or against the potential Shadow Rider Calyrex. It's actually a pretty good roll to KO the Shadow Rider Calyrex in my favor. And if not, it always guarantees the KO on a standard Shadow Rider Calyrex if it has taken the Life Orb chip. So I really do like having that option. So Pincurchin's really nice to have. Rising Voltage does an insane amount of damage with the Electric Surge and Life Orb. It almost KO'd a Zacian in one of my battles. It also just does so much damage in general because of the extra boost. Sucker Punch to activate policies, as well as catch Shadow Rider Calyrex. Rain Dance for the Torkoal matchups because this Pokemon really helps out against Torkoal under the Trick Room. And then Protect as the final move because it's a good move. Now, we have a simple EV spread of max HP, max special attack, and 4 in special defense. I like having the max special attack because I like the Rising Voltage being able to put on a lot of offensive pressure. I don't really see much bulk that I really need to add Pincurchin, maybe in the future, but since I made it an offensive set, I might as well just go with the max special attack, max HP, because it does have pretty low HP but decent natural defenses. So just want to increase it more, and then the rest was in the special defense. I actually think I might have changed the EV spread and maybe added a bit more attack, so the Sucker Punch guarantees the KO on Shadow Rider Calyrex. Of course, that means that you would be increasing the amount of damage to Necrozma, which is something that you do have to consider a risk, but I think it would probably be worth experimenting around with. But yeah, sadly, we weren't able to get many Rain Dances off with the team in general, but it'd be really fun if anyone who wanted to try out this team used it and ended up getting that Rain Dance in front of Torkoal. I think would be phenomenal. So the next Pokemon we have is Thundurus with the Safety Goggles, Prankster's ability with Thunderbolt, Eerie Impulse, Rain Dance, and Brutal Swing. I really do like Thundurus because I think this Pokemon really disrupts a lot of strategies, especially against Sun teams. Prankster, Rain Dance, and Eerie Impulse really make it difficult for Charizard and Venusaur to succeed. And I really do like having that option, as well as the ability to shut down some potential threats like Dragapult Colossal Lead if you have Thunder Wave, if you opt for it, but I am not in this case. But I think that is a really interesting mon, has a lot of good moves in order to disrupt strategies like that. So I do like having the Safety Goggles. This is for Amoonguss, especially if it's like Amoonguss Kyogre potentially. I really do like having the goggles for like Venusaur as well, so it can't sleep powder me. And it's just a good consistent item in general. Prankster for the ability because I am not running Defiant. Thunderbolt, Eerie Impulse, Rain Dance, and Brutal Swing. So Thunderbolt is going to be the main damage output. I like using Special Thundurus, especially if you're running a Support Thundurus. Eerie Impulse is really nice. It helps with Necrozma because Necrozma is a really good physical defense. Its special defense is a little bit lacking, so having that Eerie Impulse is nice. Helps against Shadow Rider Calyrex, helps against Kyogre, helps against a lot of potential special threats that can really do a lot of damage to Necrozma, especially if I don't Dynamax and I'm trying to set up Trick Room. I like having Rain Dance because of the fact that, you know, you can never have enough Rain Dance to counter Sun team because I am not a big fan of Sun. I also really like the Rain Dance on Thundurus because it allows me to Rain Dance next to potentially Urshifu and threaten the Surging Strikes knockout into like Charizard or potentially Groudon, which is really nice. So I do like having multiple forms of Rain Dance, and I think it helps, especially if I could lead like Necrozma Thundurus, which is also a pretty solid lead with the team. And then Brutal Swing to activate the policy on Necrozma, since I don't really use Thunder Wave on this team or any form of speed control because the only fast Pokemon on my team is the Choice Scarf for Urshifu, and I don't think it's worth it in general to have Thunder Wave. So ended up just going with Brutal Swing. So for the EV spread, I went with a physical defensive Thundurus because I felt like with the -2 that I get from Eerie Impulse, I felt like I didn't really need to invest as much into special defense, so I'd rather have it in physical defense. Also helps with like Zacian and some other threats like Incineroar, Rillaboom, etc. So I had most of it in physical defense, 244 HP with 156 defense. That gives me a +1 extra stat point. And then I dumped the rest into special defense because I felt like I didn't need max defense Thundurus, with 4 special attack because I wasn't really using this for damage output. I was really just using it as support. Then 28 speed. I felt like this was nice to speed creep under Thundurus potentially, but I also really do like the fact that I can outspeed base 70s that are max speed. So I thought that was just pretty nice. It was not really a benchmark that was necessary, but I felt like, you know, I had leftover EVs, so I might as well just use it in speed in case it does somehow come into play. And yeah, I really do like Thundurus. I think it's a great mon, and on this team it offers quite a few roles. A ground immunity is really nice. It also plays mind games in team preview if they don't know the team, because of the fact that with Thundurus you're always guessing between where it's going to be a Prankster set or a Defiant set. So if they think it's a Defiant set, they might be less likely to lead their Intimidate mon, which helps out Necrozma immensely, and I can just set up the Brutal Swing and go for the max Necrozma weakness policy activation right away, and they might not want to bring in their Intimidate Mon because they're still wondering what the Thundurus set is. So that's what I really do like, having Thundurus on that team. It offers really good support in not only just a general sense, but also in a mind game sense, with the Defiant Thundurus being a now something that players do have to be worried about. So I really do like that little bit of aspect. It's a little bit of a cheeky thing, but overall I think it is a wonderful Pokemon, especially in this format. It is a troublesome threat, a little prankster if you call it that. Next Pokemon, we have Cradily with the Power Herb. Ability is going to be the Storm Drain, Giga Drain, Meteor Beam, Earth Power Protect. I absolutely love Cradily, and I used this thing back I think in Series 9. Absolutely fantastic Pokemon, and I think it still does pretty well. I felt like my team took a little bit too much damage from Kyogre still, even with the Eerie Impulse Thundurus. I always want to switch in to the Water Spout, and I felt like Cradily just fulfilled a few certain other roles I really liked. Having a grass type is really nice. Having the immunity to water and even be able to draw away the water type attacks like Scald, which is always annoying for Necrozma, especially if they get the burn. So just being able to avoid that immensely is really nice to have. And I felt like Cradily does have some roles, specifically being able to really threaten stuff like Charizard, because it should be able to live with Wildfire, especially with, like, you know, I have multiple Rain Dance. This is really nice. Meteor Beam's always a nice threat against flying types. And I felt like this Pokemon had a lot of potential, so just wanted to try it out in the series and see how it ended up working, especially since I usually have Necrozma-Dusk-Mane, which is really nice to have against Zacian, which is probably the Pokemon Cradily hates the most in this format. So overall, Necrozma is usually generally really good against Zacian teams, so I felt like Cradily was a great Pokemon to have here, as it does really well against some other stuff like Kyogre, Groudon, and more. So we have the set with Giga Drain, Meteor Beam, Earth Power Protect. I really just love the power of Meteor Beam. It just allows it to do so much damage. I really do like having the Giga Drain here instead of Energy Ball that I used to run. I like Giga Drain just for the recovery, because having that boost with Meteor Beam and then be able to heal back HP is really nice to have. I don't really like Grass Knot, especially with Dynamax. I felt like Energy Ball did miss some KOs anyway, so I might as well just get the recovery with Giga Drain. That was my thought. Meteor Beam with the power, pretty simple. Strong rock type move, especially with Max Rockfall. Fantastic move. Earth Power, well, assuming it hits. Earth Power, just for coverage. I really was thinking about some other moves, but I felt like it was just more consistency. And then Protect. And then for the EV spread, max HP, 228 special attack. This just gives it another +1 stat point. I felt like I didn't need to go max special attack, especially with the Meteor Beam boosting my special attack stat to +1, having the 20 defense extra wise, and then investing more into special defense and speed, just leftover EVs. I mean, realistically, I could have just like put 28 into defense and 228 into special attack and not waste a 4 in speed, which really doesn't come into play at all. So it just depends on whether I think the 4 special defense could be worth it or not. So I'm not really too sure on the calcs. All I know is I want Cradily to do as much damage as it possibly can, and it does do a ton of work. I think Cradily is a great Pokemon in this format. If you can check the Zacians, I think it does match up against quite a few Pokemon pretty well, and it's decently bulky as well, especially with the high natural special defense stat. And even though its damage output isn't great, I think Meteor Beam boost just helps it out immensely, covering that weakness. So I really do like Cradily. I think it's a great Pokemon, and it did do a ton of work. And especially since it helped against Regieleki, having a resist against Regieleki was really nice. And being able to take the electric moves and have a switch in was just really good for that Pokemon. Next, we got Necrozma-Dusk-Mane with the weakness policy, Prism armor for the ability with Sunsteel Strike, Rock Slide, Earthquake, and Trick Room. Oh man, Necrozma-Dusk-Mane, the Prism armor, reducing the super effective moves by 25%, and then with Dynamax and weakness policy, oh boy, this Pokemon's actually a threat in the Dynamax formats, and it's actually insane. One of the Pokemon that do really well against Zacian too, since this thing is just naturally really bulky, has a high attack stat, and can take Behemoth Blade pretty well. It'll take the fighting moves okay-ish, and yeah, dish out a lot of damage. I really do think Necrozma-Dusk-Mane is a great Pokemon in this format, just because of the fact that Dynamax with weakness policy is already super strong, and Necrozma is a really good abuser of it. So having that weakness policy set to just dish out so much damage while being bulky, and it boosts up its defenses with its Dynamax moves, is absolutely insane. Prism armor and great ability. Sunsteel Strike, because of the fact that it is the strongest steel type move that Necrozma will get here, and the fact that it goes through the disguise with like Mimikyu, really strong. Rock Slide for coverage, especially against Charizard. I want to revenge KO them with a Rock Fall if possible. Earthquake to boost up the special defense. Max Quake is also just really nice in general, especially against Zacian. and then Trick Room, of course, because this team is more reliant on Trick Room. So the EV spread's pretty simple. 228 HP gives it a 201 HP stat that allows it to live 4 Nightshades or Seismic Tosses. And I felt like max HP didn't really accomplish anything different, so I might as well just use the EV somewhere else. 180 in attack because that gives me the extra stat point, and it's really nice for Necrozma to do a bunch of damage with weakness policy. And then I just drew the rest in special defense because of the fact that Necrozma's physical defense is already pretty solid with the Prism armor as well, and then just being able to like boost up. Usually I go for Sunsteel Strike over Max Quick most of the time, so I'll usually be boosting up the defense anyway, so I want Necrozma to take special attacks especially. So having that extra special defense is really nice, especially since a lot of the spread moves that Necrozma is weak to are usually like special moves like Heat Wave, for instance, or like Muddy Waters or Water Spouts or Orchid Pulses. That's usually what's hitting Necrozma for the hardest amount of damage. And I could usually cover the physical side with Incineroar regardless with the Intimidate. So having the extra special defense is just better, I think, in general. And it's really nice to have. So this Necrozma is really strong. Weakness policy in Dynamax, I think there's not really much else to say. It is absolutely insane what it does with the mechanic. And Necrozma just really gets to shine, I think, in this format. Choice Scarf, Rapid Strike, Urshifu with Unseen Fist for the ability, Surging Strikes, Close Combat, U-Turn, and Rain Dance. Now, in Series 10, Choice Scarf Urshifu was very common, but before that, usually would always just run Focus Sash or Choice Band as the common item. However, back when I played that one online tournament where it had one restricted or one mythical, this Rain Dance Urshifu really gave me trouble as I led my Charizard against Urshifu Necrozma lead. They went for the Rain Dance as I thought I could get an easy KO on the Necrozma, get the Wildfire up, and then Airstream knock out the Urshifu the following turn. That is not what happened. I got Rain Dance into Rockfall, got KO'd with my Charizard, and yeah, that was something. But yeah, I want to bring that tech back. I think it's a really cool tech. It catches a lot of Sun teams by surprise, and I think it's a really cool. I think Choice Scarf Urshifu is really nice too on this team because once Trick Room's over, Necrozma would probably have taken some damage, and then I'd probably have to rely on something faster in the end game because Necrozma would probably not be able to get a second Trick Room up if potentially, and that would allow Choice Scarf Urshifu to potentially just clean up the game, especially against like weakened Pokemon like Zacian, which is really nice to have. So having the Surging Strikes, Close Combat, U-Turn, just pretty standard moves on the Choice Scarf Urshifu. I don't really like any other moves. I didn't really like the tech moves like Rock Slide. I don't think Aqua Jet's really necessary. And then the Rain Dance tech with a simple EV spread of 4 HP, 252 attack, and 252 speed with an Animate Nature. Don't really think I need to go with a Jolly Nature. I just like the Animate Nature for the extra damage, especially against like Incineroars with the Berry. And yeah, that's basically the Urshifu set, and it was really nice to have, even though I never clicked Rain Dance at all against any teams. Unfortunately, I just never clicked Rain Dance. Final Pokemon is Assault Vest Incineroar with the Intimidate ability, Flare Blitz, Snarl, U-Turn, Fake Out. Pretty much one of the most consistent Pokemon in the format, just because really good against a lot of common threats. Specifically, it's going to help out against the Shadow Rider Calyrex. It's going to help out against the Venusaurs. It can live a Charizard attack and maybe slow it down. This is one of the few Pokemon that can actually do it. So as much as people don't like how common Incineroar is, yes, it is going to be still very common in this format regardless. So Assault Vest Incineroar is just fantastic for sponging up the attacks. I think living the Charizard max move in Sun with the Solar Power Life Orb is just really important in general in the format. And yeah, having the Flare Blitz, Snarl, U-Turn, Fake Out. I'm running Snarl here for, you know, mitigating the special attack. I didn't feel like I would go for the dark type move in most cases, like the Darkest Lariat or Drill Chop. I'd rather just go for the Snarl and potentially just like get the spread damage, especially against like Calyrex, as I said before, is really something. And then, you know, Snarl will be able to mitigate the damage on the Necrozma, so maybe I could activate a weakness policy, especially if I set it up properly, and slow down the Charizard, which you can never have too many answers to Charizard, in my opinion. You can never have too many answers to Charizard. So the EV spread is something. It is basically a defensive EV spread where it allows me to live most Charizard max moves with a little bit of extra to spare in case I am switching into like a few attacks, like maybe like some U-turns or Fake Outs, or just in general, just being able to have a little bit of extra HP just in case if I switch into a Pokemon and I still need to live the max move. That's basically what it is. I have a little bit of extra room with the EV spread, and then I just had an Adamant Incineroar because I still want Flare Blitz to do a bunch of damage to like Pokemon like Zacian and Amoonguss, which I think is really nice to have. So, and I did have the speed just so I am able to outspeed a max speed Amoonguss, which I think is pretty nice to have. So that is basically what room I really want to have. And yeah, just with the assault vest, I felt like I could run a bit of attack and speed on this spread, and it works really well. So how to use the team and what are the common leads with the team? So overall, the main strategy is going to be using that Necrozma-Dusk-Mane. It is the main foundation, using the weakness policy, dishing out a lot of damage whether your opponent activates it or you self-proc it. And overall, Necrozma is going to be able to do a big amount of damage. You could set up Trick Room immediately, or you could even just go straight for the Dynamax and try to set up Trick Room in the mid or late game. Overall, you use Necrozma for the main damage output. Sometimes you do go for the Cradily setup Trick Room, which is still pretty effective against certain teams. And of course, you could always try to set up for an Urshifu late game cleanup, or you could lead Urshifu right away, try to dish out as much damage as you can, and then set up a Trick Room in the mid or late game, or set up just for a Necrozma or Cradily offensive win. So the common leads with the team, I feel like there are quite a few common leads. The main ones is going to be Incineroar. Incineroar just pairs well with a lot of these members. You usually lead Incineroar either all of these Pokemon. Usually like Incineroar Cradily for the Meteor Beam setup. Incineroar plus Urshifu. I think just this is out a lot of damage, so you can set up for a Necrozma Trick Room mid game. I think it's really solid. I really do like Incineroar Thundurus because it can start slowing down your opponent using the Intimidate and the Eerie Impulse right away. And then the Necrozma-Dusk-Mane Incineroar helps set up Trick Room with the Fake Out and just simple Trick Room, which is always really nice. I like Urshifu as the lead. Urshifu is just really strong. With the Necrozma-Dusk-Mane, you can go for the Rain Dance as mentioned before, but you could just use Urshifu to strike out a lot of damage right away to weaken stuff for Necrozma immediately. The Urshifu Thundurus lead isn't bad either, as it can apply a lot of damage, and they might have to guess if it's a Defiance set right away, which can get some trouble. U-turn pivoting is also really nice to Incineroar, for instance, to play a bit of a slower game with the Intimidate and the Eerie Impulses, and I think it's really solid. And Thundurus Necrozma is probably my most common lead otherwise, because of the fact that you could Eerie Impulse and set up Trick Room right away against these big special threats, or you could go for the Rain Dance or self-proc weakness policy right away with the Brutal Swing. And that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed the thought process that went behind the Necrozma-Dusk-Mane team. If you did, please leave a like down below, leave a comment down below. It really does help me out. And you can try out the team for 2 weeks using the rental code. It will expire in 2 weeks, so make sure you grab while you can. Otherwise, the pay spin is available in the description down below. But it's a really fun team. Even though I never got to click Rain Dance, I think it is still really fun, and hopefully for those of you who do try out the team, I hope you get multiple Rain Dances off and catches the Sun teams by surprise. But thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day, people, and until we battle again, I'll catch you all later.